This is a surprise. Nobody knows who it is. However, let me explain a little bit about John Hyde, who the award's named after, and John is pretty well known to a lot of you. He was a successful farmer who went on to become a federal member of Parliament for some years. And he went on, he started a think tank in Perth called the AIPP, which was ultimately taken over by IPA because they wanted John to go to Melbourne and become the executive director of the IPA. Then John was a founding director of Mannkal for many years, until recently. And he proved to me that one person can make a difference. He was the single person from beginning to end that devised the economic policies that revolutionised Australia in the late 80s through to the early 90s. He assembled a group around him called the DRIES, D-R-I-E-S, it's dry economic policy, deregulation and freeing up the economy. An amazing achievement. He assembled all the policies that were required. He could not get his Prime Minister, Malcolm Fraser, the least bit interested in any of these policies. Fraser saw no benefit of pursuing that. He saw no votes in it. And ironically, it was left to the Hawke and Keating government that followed Malcolm Fraser. And a long story, but Bob Hawke heard John Hyde's presentation about these policies because his own people were not expecting to win. The ALP were not expecting to win the election. When they got in, Bob Hawke gathered his people around and said, "Has anyone got any policies?" They said, the only guy we know that talks about policies is John Hyde from the other side. Hawke said, "Bring him in." And John Hyde gave a presentation, encouraged by Peter Walsh, the ALP finance minister. And Bob Hawke sent John Hyde out of the room and said, "Anyone got any better ideas?" Nobody spoke up, and Bob Hawke said, "We'll do the bloody lot." And that's exactly what he did. I know I was fortunate enough to be in business through those amazing years when we saw Australia, which was stagnant, like a ship becalmed with no wind. Suddenly the wind came up and the wind in our sails. We were travelling at full speed. That was a wonderful about 8 years. It's tapering off. There's no, as you can see, there's no thirst for policies on either side of Parliament at the moment, and we're poorer for that case. So that's why we've named an award, the John Hyde Award. Now, it gives me great pleasure to announce the winner of the 93 for John Hyde Award is Ruben Kaiser. A fine fellow, you hold this. Perhaps somebody might take a photo of this.
He's rather
Here we go, we'll have a photo. Happy with this? Okay. Okay. Now also there's a remarkable book, but I do know the secret of this book. It's a book about the history of Australia, signed by a very famous author called Professor Geoffrey Blaine. I'm going to spring this one on Ruben. I've just told you about how John Hyde, one person concentrating on economic reforms, made such a difference. Now, Ruben, let me ask you, if you have this opportunity to create a better Australia, how would you go about that?
putting you on the spot. But I think if I learned anything from Mannkal, if one thing really stuck in my mind, I had the amazing opportunity of going to Vermont and reading up about Milton Friedman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, and I think that line that stuck in my head was, I've never yet heard anybody defend a government policy who said that all its evils came from the fact that it was not big enough. So I think in that spirit and the spirit of John Hyde, I think that's the path Australia should take. So, thank you.
Okay.